What's up, guys? It has been with 2020 election predictions, and we are about 1 hour from the polls closing. So I'm going to do my final presidential predictions before we get the polls closed and before the election results come in. I've made a few changes from what I've previously done, but this is my final prediction. Lock it in. Let's see how right I am tomorrow or whenever we get our results. But right now, I'm predicting Biden-Harris at 305 electoral votes and Trump-Pence at 233 electoral votes. And if these numbers look pretty familiar, they are. Trump won with 306 electoral votes in 2016, so Biden would just be kind of one electoral vote of what Trump did in 2016. However, I'm still getting the presidential victory to Donald Trump. So let me kind of just touch in the swing states. One change I made, because I've just been seeing that voter turnout is so high, and just kind of the historical projection of Texas becoming more blue. I still think that Donald Trump is going to hold on to Texas, but we've seen just in the early vote numbers that they've surpassed the total vote that there was in 2016. I think this helped Democrats just because of how many people are coming into Texas and how many newly registered voters we saw. In 2018, Beto O'Rourke only came 1.5 points short to Ted Cruz, and I think it would be probably a similar margin. I think we're going to see more Republicans turn out, but also we're going to see more Democrats turn out as well. So I think it's going to be a tilt margin here. I still feel pretty confident that Trump's going to win the state. In Iowa and Ohio, I think there's going to be a significant polling error in Trump's favor. So I think he's going to win these states, not have too much trouble there. In Georgia and Florida, I'm not super confident about. In fact, in Georgia, I've always had it going to Trump. However, I really think at this point, just depending on turnout, especially kind of in the Atlanta region, which has been growing tremendously, that could affect it. Stacey Abrams, after she lost the 2018 gubernatorial race, has made a huge effort on trying to register and turn out people to vote. And then I would also say with the Senate, it's kind of a disaster for the Republicans in the special election with Kelly Woolford and Doug Collins, said that might have a negative impact there. However, right now, some of it very narrowly going to Trump, but really, I think this is a closer state than people think. Florida, I actually have more confidence that Florida is going to Trump, just kind of looking at some of the data that's coming out in Miami-Dade County. And if we look at the vote totals right now, it does appear that more registered Republicans have voted than Democrats. And kind of going off the historical data, from the 2018 midterms when the polls were off, and the Republicans ended up winning, I do think Trump will hold Florida, and I think that the seniors, enough seniors kind of fell back to him. The seniors that voted for him in 2016 who are maybe thinking about Biden, I think enough fell back to Trump for him to keep the state. One change I have is North Carolina. This is the state that I voted in, actually. I'm just seeing numbers where voter turnout is extremely high. The poll closings have been extended. And I just think with voter turnout very, very high, and I think that kind of with the governor's race, I think it's going to kind of come down and even affect the presidential race. And consistently, we've seen the Democrat Roy Cooper do well here. And if Trump doesn't win North Carolina, I think the election is over. Right now, I still have it very, very close. I mean, all these tilt states I think will be close. I don't think Texas and Florida will be as close as Georgia and North Carolina, but I'm really kind of flipping a coin at this point. But I do think that Biden will very, very narrowly take North Carolina. That's a change. Same thing with Arizona. These are both states that Trump won by 3.5 points in 2016. I think these states have just trended leftward, and right now I'm predicting more than a 3.5 point swing, probably a 4 point swing is where I'm looking at right now. And I don't think that the other races here, so the Senate race in Arizona doesn't help Trump. Mark Kelly is definitely a stronger candidate than Martha McSally, and I do expect him to win here. And the governor's race in North Carolina definitely doesn't help Trump here. So kind of moving on to the most important state, I do think that Biden will be able to retake the Rust Belt in Wisconsin, Michigan. Most people are predicting that Biden will hold these. Pennsylvania is the one state where people are a little bit more unsure about. I think this is going to be the closest state. I do think it's probably going to be between 1 to 2 points for Biden, but I do think he's going to hold. And I think that the states of North Carolina and Georgia are going to be closer than Pennsylvania. And this Pennsylvania state might even move into the lean Democratic state. So let me move on to the Senate right now. I'm predicting a 50-50 split. So if this projection is right and that this one is correct, then actually we would see the Democrats get the Senate majority because Kamala Harris would break the tie there. Some updates I've done here. So Iowa, I moved from the tilt Republican side to the lean Republican side. The last Des Moines Register poll that had Trump up by 7 and Joni Ernst up by 4 to 5 points. And they've typically been the most accurate pollster. I do think Joni Ernst is going to keep this seat, just kind of like Trump will on the presidential level. In Texas, I do think John Cornyn's going to outperform President Trump, even though voter turnout's high. I think we're going to see some crossover with the Biden and Cornyn voters, and that Cornyn will probably win the seat between 2 to 4 points. In Alaska, this is an interesting race because it's the incumbent Republican versus the independent. So I do think this is going to be close than people think. It's not going to be the focus because it's going to be one of the last polls to close, but I do think that Dan Sullivan will be able to hold the seat off. In terms of kind of the lean Democratic seats, I think in Arizona, Mark Kelly is going to win this. I think it's going to be by a smaller margin than John Hickenlooper here, just because on the presidential level it's going to be closer. But I do expect Mark Kelly to win this seat. Up in Maine, I'm really struggling between putting this in the tilt Democratic column or the lean Democratic column. Right now, I just think with kind of the extinction of split ticket voting, I think a lot of people are going to straight ticket vote. I think this is going to help Sarah Gideon, and also with the ranked choice voting, you hear a lot of the a lot of the third party candidates telling them to write in Sarah Gideon rather than Susan Collins. So I think this is going to help Sarah Gideon. And it will the ranked choice voting. I do not think will help Susan Collins. And then in Michigan, John James I think is a strong Republican challenger, but just in 2020 when the partisanship is so high, I think it's going to track very closely to the presidential election. So that's why I have both of them in the lean Democratic column. John James might outperform Donald Trump by a little bit, but who knows? So anyway, getting into the tilt states, I had Montana in the lean Republican state, but kind of looking at it more closely, I think Montana's going to be closer. I saw that the 538 polling average out of Montana has President Trump only up by like 5 or 6 points on the presidential level. So I do think Steve Bullock will be able to outperform Joe Biden here. I still think that Steve Daines will be able to win as the incumbent, even though the other senator from Montana is John Tester, he was a Democrat. In Georgia, I think David Perdue will end up winning this seat. I think he very well could win it on election night. But if he doesn't win on election night, I have pretty high confidence. I think I would even move this into the lean Republican column if he doesn't win on election night. However, in the special election, I don't think any candidate's going to get above 50%. And I think while Doug Collins and Kelly Wolf were, whichever one's on the Republican side, is not necessarily a very strong Republican. They're a very strong mainstream Republican statewide. I think that because I think Joe Biden's going to win, I think in December and January there's going to be a lot of money poured in from the Republican side just to try to keep that one seat there. And so I think that Republicans will be able to hold on to the seat, even though it's kind of been a cluster there. And I think that on the Republican side, people are not happy that Doug Collins tried to primary Kelly Wolf for, because it's just kind of been a disaster there. In South Carolina, I really don't know. I've seen polls that have Jamie Harrison up 6 points, up 5 points. I've seen some polls that have Lindsey Graham up 5 or 6 points. I tend to think that Lindsey Graham will probably keep this seat. And I might even move this into the lean Republican column, but just because of the amount of money that's important in the state, Jamie Harrison has raised the most money out of any Senate candidate. I just really don't know. I think this is actually going to come down to the wire. I've actually seen ads where I think Democrat affiliated groups are trying to promote the Constitution Party candidate as being the true conservative. So saying that Lindsey Graham isn't conservative enough, and they're kind of using Trump's words when he was more anti-Lindsey Graham and when Lindsey Graham was more anti-Trump against Lindsey Graham. So we'll see if that works. I don't think it'll have too much of an impact, but if it peels off 1 or 2 percentage points for Lindsey Graham, then Jamie Harrison could very well win. North Carolina is the state I have the least confidence in right now. I think that Tom Tillis could be able to pull this off. But Cal Cunningham has been pretty consistent in leading in the polls. I thought that the sexting scandal would have a little bit more impact than it did. So it appears that Cal Cunningham might be able to run out the clock on the scandal by just not talking about it and win this race. But North Carolina is a state where I'm going to be looking at very closely on the governorship level, on the Senate level, and then obviously on the presidential level. So there you have it. These are my predictions right now. It is 6 o'clock Eastern right now. The polls are going to close in about an hour. I'm going to do one video tomorrow to see if my predictions are accurate. And please let me know what you think about my final election predictions on the presidential and Senate level. And if I'm right, then hopefully I'll have good luck or something like that. And be on the lookout. I'm going to do a live stream tonight. I think probably between 8 o'clock Eastern and 10 p.m. Eastern. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Thanks, guys, and see you later.